All right, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're all doing well. It is Starjump Grim. Nice to see you all in chat. I am going to be bringing Execute in here in just 1 second, but I want to go ahead and say hello to you all. Let me know if my mic is coming in clear, please, in chat. Hopefully it is, but let me know if it's not. Hopefully, again, everybody is having a great week. Okay, Shampasta North North says, sounds good. Okay, I'm going to go with that. Solomon says, good. Okay, we're going to go with that. Welcome to another episode of Starjump Shipyard. I am going to bring Execute over, like I said, in just a second, Execute from Info Runners. He's pretty excited about the Argo Capital project, so we're going to talk all about that. This is part 3 of this project. This is obviously a kind of a long requested thing from some of the Shipyard viewers, which was for me to get back to kit bashing ships and coming up with idea concepts and stuff like that. So we're getting back to it today. This also is sort of a lead up to something that I'm hoping to do for St. Jude. More info on that soon. It does involve a fan-made concept ship. There's going to be a whole thing around it, but we're still working out some logistical details. But this is kind of a practice run. It's kind of a practice run. Okay, real quick here, let me go ahead and bring Execute over, and then we will go over what we are currently doing here on today's episode. If you haven't followed the channel, please do. You can follow us over on, or subscribe to us over on our YouTube. Follow us here on my Twitch and Ender's Twitch, and do not forget to go to our Twitter, please, and follow us over there, because that is where all the show streaming news comes out of. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to drag Execute over. Hello, Execute. How are you? Let's see if we got Execute. He may be getting breakfast, everyone.
I am. It's still cooking, but I was talking to Ender, and we're in the middle of a conversation. Just yoinked me straight up.
I just yoinked you. See, your conversation ran too long over there. Sorry. Hope you're doing well. Lazy Donuts just subscribed for 12 months in a row, which is incredible. Thank you, Lazy. You know what? You deserve the famous double salute, but you know what? I don't think I have it up on this one. I failed. Okay, either way, thank you, Lazy. Really appreciate it. Give you the 007s. Thank you for being such an awesome supporter of us. I know in the past you've donated things and won contests and just generally been involved and pretty active in chat. So thank you, Lazy. Appreciate it. Execute, how has your weekend been?
Good. I want to talk about a game very briefly.
Sure.
Not Star Citizen. I don't know if you saw it earlier today, my time. They dropped a trailer for Star Jump Ship.
I have seen this, yeah.
And the open beta signups are out as well. So I just want to let people know, if you're a Star Citizen fan and you're into co-op and you like space stuff, have a look at their...
What's it called again?
Jump Ship. And they had a trailer called Jump Ship Gameplay Moments.
Okay.
It goes for about a bit over 10 to 11 minutes, and it's just got this trailer of these 4 guys basically showing you what the game is going to play like. It's a lot like it. There's another game out there called
I have the trailer up right now. Yeah.
Void Space or whatever.
Yeah.
There's 2 trailers. There's that little gameplay explainer, and then there's like one where they actually play a whole mission. Which is the gameplay moments one, and I think a lot of people that like Star Citizen would be into this.
So it kind of looks like it could be like a Star Citizen Light. It's got a lot of the concepts and stuff.
No. More like a So it's got elements of like Left 4 Dead and stuff. Like, you know what a 4-player co-op shooter is? I love 4-player co-op shooters, by the way. So like Vermintide, Darktide, even Space Marine, and any of the ones where you're doing co-op, like playing together as a team.
Yeah, this looks really cool.
And this is made by ex-DICE developers. So think Battlefield and stuff like that. So, and apparently it's going to have different ships. And yeah, if you've ever played Void Space, it just reminds me of that a lot, but it seems a lot more polished.
Awesome. Okay. So this will be something to check out.
Yeah, so it's got pilots, and they actually go into it like they like attack a big ship, and they go into it, and they like steal loot off it and stuff like that. There's lots of cool little things you'll see in the trailer, but I just
And
wanted to bring that up because the beta signups are there, and I didn't want anyone to miss out
nice.
that we know, because I think it'll be very popular in the
Yeah,
space
this is
community.
really cool. And again, the more successful sci-fi games that we have come out, the better. It's better for competition. It's better to have options. So this is really cool.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Hope you're doing well. This is definitely something to check out. I will go check on that soon if there's beta invites up, because it does look pretty sweet.
I'm gonna grab my breakfast.
Do it.
It's just jump. I think it's jumpshipgame.com or something like that.
Yep.
Is the website.
Jump Ship Game. Yep, indeed. I'll actually post the link for those that are interested in this game. It is can't vouch for it yet. Haven't played it, but if you're interested, there is the link. Anyways, hopefully everyone is having a great Tuesday. Night Lenny, thank you for that follow, giving you a salute, sending the javelin overhead. Really appreciate that. And earlier, Lazy Donuts sent the Kraken overhead, best ship in the game, obviously. Anyways, we're talking Argo Capital Ship Project today. This is our third episode in the series. If you remember the last two episodes, we went over, our first episode, we talked about the role of the ship. We did land on a few things there we're going to go over. One of the things talked about was a sort of runabout ship, UFO ship that would attach to that. In episode 2, showed off the runabout ship and showed about sort of how maybe how the concept ship could look. But I always approach some of these like these kind of concept kit bashes. I always approach them a certain way. I'm sure it is not the way CIG does it, but we'll do it my way for right now. And again, we're going to show you where that's led to, because as I told you in previous episodes, it's hard to kit bash live on stream the entire time, because there is a lot of figuring stuff out, breaking other models apart to use parts and pieces. So I do a little bit of that. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of dead air, so to speak.
A lot of dead air, yeah. So people know that I don't do like 5-hour streams. I wish I could. I just got a 9-year-old that wants my attention at all times, and a puppy that wants my attention at all times. So it's
you could, but it'd be like
I
3 a.m.
I could, but it'd be tricky. Although my wife is getting more and more behind me streaming, so I think that's always a good thing. But regardless,
right, yeah.
Yeah. So so over the last week, I have done a lot of work on the Argo Capital, on my own. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to update you on where I'm at today. We still got a ways to go. However, we're going to go over some of the journey today. So I'm going to bring this up.
Well, I actually brought the UFO up with Griffin from Soul Citizen, and he fell in love as well.
I did see you bring the UFO up on your episode with Algrid.
Man. It's so good. I love it, man. Like I think I said to them, they need to make it a smaller ship. They were trying to build this real big thing.
Yeah.
And if they make it smaller, it works. And I just love the fact that it looks like a UFO, but it still looks Argo. I think you nailed it, man.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to show that again today. Based off where the Capital has landed in size, because I do think I've sort of figured out where it's going to land in size, it kind of puts the snub runabout UFO ship at around the 20 to 28 meter mark, somewhere in there, which is kind of a good
freelancer.
size. It's a freelancer. Yeah. Well, no, freelancer's 38, so it'll be a little shorter.
Oh, 38, not 28, my bad.
But again, the way the snub ship connects, it can expand up or down, but we're going to look at that. But if you're a fan of the UFO concept that CIG originally showed way back in the day, and that we riffed off, obviously, you may like where the Capital has gone. You may like where it's gone. I'm actually going to bring up a couple things here. Let's go back to this sheet here. So this is our Argo Capital project. Obviously, it's a capital ship. We know the size we're targeting here. The current Argo lineup goes up to, I think, 45, 48 meters with the Mole, which is kind of like the biggest of the medium ships, and doesn't really get any bigger. But I know there's a lot of Argo love at CIG amongst the ship devs, and I know there's a lot of fan love for Argo. So I thought it'd be a cool thing to explore what Argo looks like on a massive scale, like capital scale. We kind of landed on repair as its focus. However, a secondary focus would be fabrication. Again, I think, and Execute, you'd probably agree that there's a lot of crossover between the two things. I know they are sort of different loops, but I think they use a lot of the same gameplay elements.
I think they are, as I explained last time, they are kind of just different starting points, but they do relatively are quite similar.
Yeah. I think we kind of landed on being able to service ships up to constellation size. So the Crucible, again, if they stick with the current concept, even if it scales up a bit, is probably going to be able to service ships up to like Saber, Inferno, or Saber and Ares on the high end to like probably primarily Hornet-sized ships. And its Scarab, obviously, its capital repair arms can repair capital, but we wanted it to kind of land on a ship that could service ships up to like Constellation Corsair size. So pretty damn big. Those are large ships, size 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, size 4. We wanted it to be equipped with a small runabout ship, a la our UFO, but again, hang on to that UFO concept because there may be more to it than just the runabout. And then I think, because of the fabrication element, I think it should be equipped with extra large drones. Not as many as the Pioneer. The Pioneer, I think, sticking at 4 is pretty cool for its niche. But maybe this ship could service 2 XL drones, or maybe even 1. But some sort of extra large drone support, I think, would be pretty cool.
Can I
go ahead.
I throw out some ideas I had during the week?
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate
it. You can promptly shoot down.
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking was, you know how it's the way it's facing? I was almost wondering if you could just actually change the way the ship faces, and it's basically like a vulture that has repairs either side. That was something I thought of during the week.
Oh yeah, right. Because we have the Vulture or the Vulcan.
No,
the Vulture. Talking about the Vulture. Vulture. Yeah.
So it's got 2 giant arms that essentially these arms extend out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't it fly in that direction? That was one of the ones I thought of.
Yeah, that's possible. And we know with the Crucible, one of its things is that it can fly in both directions. Again, original concept. I do expect that will change personally. I think CIG will change that idea, partly because it's not super necessary for the Crucible, but yeah, that's an interesting concept. Ender has a question from chat. It says, I love the concept, but didn't CIG market the Crucible as the pinnacle repair ship given the Galaxy base building debacle? How do you think that would affect a Crucible reconcept? I don't...
The points are made up and it don't matter.
Say again?
Because the points are made up and it doesn't matter.
It's
real. This is for fun.
Yeah, it's for fun. It's an exercise. But also, I think... I think CIG also sort of said that the Carrack was the pinnacle exploration ship, and we now have options there too, in the Odyssey and others. Obviously, there's a famous kind of controversy about which one is better. The Carrack killer comment from our buddy Paul Jones. But ultimately, I think in the long run, not for like a Star Citizen 1.0 or anything, but in the long run, I do think CIG will have this. Even in these larger categories, we'll at least have 2 options for people to choose from. I also will say that here's another thing to keep in mind, because this is a great question. This is a good point, but it's also very possible that, let's say this Argo concept that we're coming up with right now, there's nothing to say you can't sort of adapt this to any sort of manufacturer. I mean, you could rebrand this to Crusader or to Anvil or whatever, I'm sure. The Crucibles is going to need a major reconcepting when it goes, when that team gets a hold of it. I obviously can't speak for CIG, but if I had to guess, the Crucible will go through a reconcepting on par with the Pioneer. Meaning a major rework to its form, its function, and all that.
It's not the only one. We recorded a show this week that'll air in a week or 2 that goes through a lot of that stuff ourselves, and we were surprised when we went through.
I mean, there's a number of large ships that just fundamentally, when they were concepted, the gameplay has changed, and that's really something for those of you that do buy or do pledge for a concept ship. This is my own personal bit of advice: never pledge for a ship because of a very specific thing about that ship, especially not its numbers and its stats, but more importantly, because of like how one part of it functions or anything like that. In my opinion, if you're going to pledge for ships, you should be pledging for them based on its overarching role, which is probably the primary thing that will not change about it. Everything else is probably up to be changed, including.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
including.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just say, if you've got any doubts, just grab the upgrade and sit on it. Like I wasn't sure about the Paladin with the things with the Redeemer that went along. I just grabbed an upgrade. Yeah. And now, like, as it's starting to pan out, it looks like I may end up using that, but I'm not beholden to like their 30-day return policy. I can kind of like sit on it and I mean, kind of protect yourself.
Same thing with the Pioneer. For example, I would never pledge for a Pioneer because it has 4 extra large drones. I would pledge for a Pioneer because it's a capital construction ship. The specifics of how many drones, how many turrets, how many, all that is subject to change as game balance comes in, especially as we get closer to the the Star System 1.0 release. So
it's kind of like the areas where everyone gooed and art and all that over a size 7 gun, and that now later on, like at the time, we tried to tell them, no, this is not going to be what you think it is, and it's not going to operate the way you think it's going to operate, and lo and behold, that's exactly what's happened.
And technically, we still don't, because I guarantee you the size 7 guns are going to change again as we get closer to 1.0.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch us over here to another screen real quick.
100%.
Real quick. Agree. This is shape languages. Okay. So this is the next phase of the Argo capital ship project for me, was thinking out shape languages. Shape languages are where you take parts and pieces of an idea. You do very simple shapes to sort of get a silhouette. You've probably seen some of this sort of stuff in the past when CIG has done some of those original silhouette things. Although I'm sure there were pretty far along developed ships behind a lot of those silhouettes. But a lot of times
what's your favorites? What's your favorites? Come on.
So let's talk. So the last time we all were working on this project, let's actually, before I go into that, you'll notice a lot of these ships have these sort of capital, I'm calling them repair arms. These are based off CIG's concept image for the space stations with the dry dock arms. That's kind of where I came at that from, and I really want to sort of keep that. I do have 2 options that vary from that, but regardless, I want to keep that. Now,
actually, that was my second idea I'm going to talk to you about. Actually, there's a demo out for a game called Mecha Break. And I was telling you about the drum thing. They actually use the drum thing on to kind of repair the mech suits in Mecha Break.
Oh, okay.
I might have to show you that off stream though, because you got to see it animated for it to kind of make sense. Otherwise, it's just like a rail.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll show you that off stream.
Sounds good. And I'm going to so. On our last stream, some of you may remember we were working on an Argo. We were doing some very initial kit bashing stuff, okay? And I'm going to pull it up here in a second. I do have some questions I need to get to. Bear with me. We will get to the questions. Thank you, Ender, for DMing those to me. But some of you remember that we were sort of working on a little bit of a concept, okay? So I'm going to switch over to kind of show you where we were at when we left. Then we're going to go back to these things here.
Silhouettes.
Yeah, so if you remember, this is kind of where we were working, right? We knew it had these capital repair arms. And then we sort of took, I think it was the raft, and we just drastically upscaled its hull, and we were kind of working with something like that. We put our little UFO ship up top here. You can see that sitting there. We're gonna we'll deep dive the UFO ship here in just a second. But overall, we were kind of looking like this. Okay. Now, if I switch back to our silhouettes, that is C. That is where we was C. As I started working on this more, I started building out different versions of C just as a top-down silhouette. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. I like this. I like this. But the more and more I thought about it, I kept going back to that issue of, hey, we got a follow, Zuli56. Thank you for that follow. Appreciate it. Sending the javelin overhead. the more I kept stretching and squeezing that kind of Argo hull shape that I ripped off of the raft, the more and more it just started feeling like an upscaled existing Argo ship with some arms out the back. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it didn't feel adventurous enough. Okay. So then I went back to go ahead before I continue. Go ahead.
Well, I think you should continue because mine sounds like it's going to be after what you're about to say. So you go ahead.
So I know I was watching an episode of Info Runners, who our guest Execute does, and they were talking, and he was showing off the UFO ship. And I'll actually bring that up here so we can talk about it. He was talking about the UFO ship and how much he liked it, and I was loving that. That was great. Actually, let me switch back over. Here's our UFO ship. He was talking about it, and the idea came to me. I was like, well, if it's such an interesting shape for Argo, this kind of circular shape, which does sort of buck the trend of a lot of the other Argo hulls, I said maybe it'd be cool to explore that for a capital ship. But how do you do that in a way that doesn't seem ridiculous or doesn't feel too Star Trek-y? However, I will say I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I don't really care if it's a little too Star Trek-y. I do love Starjump Ender, or just subscribe for 12 months in a row. Ender, thank you, buddy. Salute to you.
That is so glad cool. I'll let you go first now because it shows that great mind thinks alike. So that's exactly what I was thinking before you said it.
Gotcha. Well, there you go.
So like, how do you take the UFO circleness that they want to do and make a ship that has those style? And that's exactly the ones that I was looking at in the silhouettes that you did. There was 3 there that stood out to me that had that more circular motif. There's one that's like really circular, and then there's one that's like between that and a normal Argo.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we've seen in other manufacturers when they want to go between 2 styles. So you have this really old style of RSI and then a really new style of RSI and then something of everything in between. And I'm wondering, do you make it something in between?
Possibly.
Yeah.
And also, and there's my dog barking. You can probably hear it. I will also say that VMXEO says, hey, VM, hope you're well, buddy. He said that silhouette would work for MISC as well. I agree. Finger says flattened sides and bevel. Must be a 3D artist. But anyways, here's our UFO. So again, the thought came into, well, how do we use this ship in a way, or how do we use this design language in a way that would work for something larger, right? Because you can't just scale it up and say, there's your capital. You got to think of things like hangar dimensions and stuff like that, okay? So size comes into order. And not only size, but if the ship is a certain length long, it does limit its beam length, right? So its width, because again, it needs to fit in a hangar.
Did you think about having the kind of disc part fold out in such a way, like
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're talking to the dog, right? You're talking to the dog.
Yes,
we can't hear the dog, by the way, just so you're aware.
Like, it happens.
The sound suppressed. Yeah, that's right. So you could actually have the wings fold in such a way that arms come out of it, like the arms on the Crucible. Like you could have the little arms come out. That was one of the things I thought of that actually lead into that repair. So it actually like flies right up and does its repairs and stuff like that. But
dog.
That's
yes,
right. We can't hear it, so you don't. Well, if it's annoying, it's just
you can hear it. They can't hear it. The dog is barking, everyone, but it's finally shutting up.
So before I tell you the ones that I like, I'd like to know the ones that you like because I don't want to like dictate where you go. So
and I will say too, I originally wanted to do this as a poll, but again, in order to make progress on this, because I don't want it to be a 40-part series, I had to kind of make a choice on my own. But I would love to hear everyone in chats. If you have a specific silhouette here you like, definitely put that letter in chat. I'd love to see it. I'll go ahead and tell you my favorites, though. And it really came down to 2. B.
Okay, I got 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
B was a favorite. I really liked what was going on there from a shape language standpoint. And then I also really liked, which one was it? I think it was H. H was another one that I really liked. Again, parts of Argo, but
it shows you how similar we are because the 3 I had were B, H, and A. But if you look at H and A, they are so similar, it's not funny. Like
H
the
and A,
only
yes,
thing
they're
that
similar.
really,
There's slight differences there.
yeah. So it just shows you how you and I are right on the same page. So yeah. Wherever you go, I'm going to be fine, as in happy. And not that it's up to me, but yeah. And I and for all those reasons you mentioned before about the UFO, that's why they've got that more space language, especially B.
Yeah.
But A and H almost have a Crucible vibe as well, with like a larger version of the rotisserie of the the big round part that rotates on the Crucible.
Yeah.
It's like that, but larger. So I think it carries over from that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I agree.
B feels a little bit more unique, where it loses that. But it also, as you said, carries a bit more into the UFO. But any three of those, I would have been happy with personally.
Cool.
Like you said, the others do feel like just upscaled versions of pre-existing Argo ships to me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's let me so sorry, say again, what was your probably your number one favorite?
I'm equally torn between B and H, really. I don't really mind. But do you know, I could also tell that you had worked on them more than the others?
Yeah.
Because they had the connecting bridge pieces between the arms. The other ones don't.
Yeah.
So I get to, you've done more work on them. And I'm like, oh yeah, he likes the same three I like. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up some stuff here then, everyone. Again, I'm going to show you all again the original kind of UFO concept from CIG. You can see it here. Very cool. Again, they didn't go too much into it. It is an abandoned concept. Don't get your hopes up on this one. Apparently, some people at CIG do like it, but it is abandoned. I can't find this video anywhere. If anyone can find this video, DM it to me. I'd love to see it. So let's catch up on where we are at. So let's turn this off. We're going to go back to this. Everyone should be able to see this. This is the one that kind of really looked like Concept C, right? We have the very beginnings of our capital repair arms back here. You can see that a Connie can fit pretty comfortably in them. I started kind of messing around with, hey, what does an engine look like? Where would it mount? One of the things you have to think about with engines is, like, again, that width issue, right? If a ship is a certain length long, it can't be certain length wide if it can't fit in the hangar. So things like, okay, how far do these engines stick out, right? Well, should it be back here? Should it be over here? Will the thrust interfere with ships it's trying to repair? Again, you start having to sort of think all that stuff through. But regardless, this is where we sort of ended up on that one original concept from the last stream that was looking like Silhouette C, right? Which is that upscaled raft. You can see the backward facing bridge here too that looks out over the repair area, as well as the front of the ship. Let's go to that. You can see that here. Go ahead.
The actual advantage of the backward facing bridge actually being where the ship is driven from as well would allow you to essentially drive right up on the ship that you're repairing.
Right.
And I even thought about if you made it so those arms,
it's a super vulture right here.
yeah. Essentially, if those arms fully retract and move forward towards, like, recenter themselves on the body, you could actually have it so it's just like a normal ship, and it just fully extends those arms out around. So you could literally fly right up to it, and then extend the arms out and around it. So you don't even have to fly with the arms out all the time. That was a thought I had, but I know that's a lot of extra work for you to do.
Well, let's
if you don't want to do that, I won't be.
Let's continue the journey. Okay, that's where we were at. Now let's go to where I started to take it. Okay, so let me flip back over my left monitor here. Okay, so we have our capital repair arms. Now the first thing I did was extend them. They needed to be longer to accommodate the ship. So you can see here they're a little longer than they were before. I did some initial decaling work, some structural stuff is going on. I put these top pieces here, and you'll see why in a minute. We have our UFO over here. Again, just for scale, that UFO is about 20 some odd meters long. And we have our Connie Taurus. I believe this is a Taurus, so 65-ish meters long. Here's our capital repair arms. Again, I would imagine this would be able to service any ship, 400i, Connie, Corsair with its wings folded, all that kind of stuff. Okay. And then obviously anything underneath.
Well, technically speaking, the UFO could also technically work on bigger craft. It would just be very slow.
Yeah, very true, very true. And again, with drone support, this can work on ships outside the arms as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but that leaves room for the Crucible to still have a place to exist. Like, yes, it can repair capital ships, but it's much slower at doing so than the Crucible.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start adding pieces that were worked on. So first thing, I wanted to bring that UFO stuff in. So we started doing stuff like this. And you can see how that's starting to feel like our original concept B now, right? Same silhouette.
Very USS Enterprise all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Holy
very USS
shit.
Enterprise. Okay. Starting to concept. Wanted a cool flow, though, that wasn't just the circle, but where the arms almost cradled that a little bit, right? So the arms kind of sweep up a little bit. Still have room for something in the back here, whether it's just the tail end of the ship leading back to the repair bay or possibly a secondary bridge. But again, started to feel out that geometry. Next.
So
go ahead.
So I want to ask a quick question because I've been thinking about this for a couple of minutes about the UFO. Would you want it to just sit on top like that, or would you want it to land in a hangar, or do you want it to be like just submerged a little bit into the actual hull? And I think the happy medium is submerged just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all talk about on this episode, and that's something I can go back and do some design on tonight before our next stream, is figuring out how the UFO integrates into this ship. Propped on top is kind of it's a little awkward when it's just sitting on top propped. You know what I mean? It's a little strange.
Hey, so there's advantages there's advantages and disadvantages. So if you make it so it's like the Merlin, no other ship can kind of connect, right? But if you make it so it's a hangar, yes, it's the biggest ship that can land there, but also then smaller ships could land there as well.
Yeah.
In a pinch.
Yeah.
So there's, you see where I'm going?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Pluses and minuses.
I do.
But I like the idea of it just being like the eyes of a crocodile just above the surface, like sitting inside the ship, and you don't even really know it's there, and then all of a sudden it's and it's around. And
so you can see how some of that shape language is coming through, though. So then next, we had to figure out this bottom part here because obviously nothing. So we got to start adding some stuff. First thing I did was do the hull lower. So we obviously have our hull upper. We needed the hull lower. So we'll turn that on. That is a secondary piece under here. Another UFO piece, borrowing actually from our smaller snub ship almost directly. But you can see how that piece kind of frames it out a little bit, gives it a little bit of structure up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually wondering if the front cockpit needs to be that big when
it may not be.
Most of the workers at the back. You might need like a driver cab.
I've started splitting that screen up a little bit too. You can see here to make it almost more of inside. It would be more of a double deck bridge.
Okay.
I'll keep adding here. We needed
to put our really big, really big.
Yeah, we'll put our rear repair bridge on here. So there is our rear bridge and our repair cradle. You can see that coming into play.
Okay. I was just thinking then when you said double decker, what if you did something different where the seats that are some like how many people are you envisioning? Like 5 people, 6 people in that bridge?
I would think so. I look at this as an industrial operation on the scale of a Pioneer, right?
So I'm thinking, what if we do something a little different where the back seats, right? You get in them, but they raise you forward and up.
Yeah.
So essentially so it's not double decker, but it's double decker in height. And so you sit in the back seats, but then they raise you forward and push you right up into the top right and left corner. So you've essentially got these chairs that raise you right up. I think that'd be kind of cool. Well, and it's industrial in nature if you think about it.
Well, and the more I think about it, and Jock Top kind of said this here, Starjump, what would set this apart from the Crucible again? So yes, ship size serviced, I think, is something, but the more and more I think about this, I do think that this would make more sense as a fabrication ship that can fabricate large ships, but can repair them as well. I almost feel like fabrication is a realm that hasn't been tapped, so that would make the most sense. So let's let's maybe make that call. Maybe it's a fabrication ship.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because you can still repair. You can also at different. The only thing that can build the like capitals and above is essentially the Star Dock. And right now the Pioneer can only build to medium, so there is a gap there.
There is a gap.
For large construction in space. and repair. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. The more I run it through, the more that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does too. So we've changed that to Argo Aeronautics Fabrication. There we go. So as you can see, we're starting to build this out. We still have kind of a weird area underneath here. We have a lot of nothing here. And again, remember, this ship would need to be able to carry a lot of supplies in order to be able to fabricate ships, repair ships, however you want to look at it, all that kind of good stuff. So let's bring in our lower hull now.
I can't remember
here.
What it was.
Okay.
I can't remember who it was last week, but someone, when we were talking about acronyms, 4-letter acronyms, someone said BOLT, as in construction, BOLT.
Oh, that's cool.
I like that at the moment. But
I do
if
too.
you've got another name that leads into fabrication as 4 letters long, have a think about that one in chat.
So our next stream, we're going to get pretty in depth into creating all the decals, so all the texture work, right? Because you can see I just got basic textures on here for now. We're going to need to get pretty deep into the actual texture creation, a lot of decals. Obviously, if any of you follow Gavin Rothery's work, he loves decals. That's part of why I love his work so much. So we're going to decal the hell out of this thing. We're going to do better textures, all that kind of good stuff. There's a lot of simple geometry still on this that we need to build out. But you can see with the underhull attached, we now have a lot of space underneath here. The ship has gotten some girth to it, some weight. It feels a little bit more filled out. It's got a bigger interior. You could imagine there being like a large freight elevator underneath here, able to pull out lots of cargo and all that kind of stuff.
Sorry, sorry, I know I'm interrupting, but I've just realized something. If we slightly disconnect those arms and raise them up and then push them out, it's literally the nacelles off the Enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's if I took the nacelles right now, lift them up and back, right? You're getting very Enterprisey, but you know what? Has CIG done a good Star Trek homage yet? We got the Star Wars ones. I
think RSI is closest that you're gonna get, basically. That some of the RSI, like the Mantis and
the
stuff.
Mantis. Okay, well then you know what? If there's anyone from CIG watching, we need some more Star Trek homages. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I was just watching Voyager last night. Okay, so I'm just saying. I still think this is right ballpark, and it's still, honestly, it still feels pretty damn Argo, right? Like there's something about it that still feels very Argo.
It is, and I actually think it's a little Vulcan as well. I know that sounds a bit weird to say, but they have a lot of oval stuff in their stuff as well.
Yeah.
But they do it vertically.
Yeah.
So I do like it. It's this really cool homage where it's its own thing, but it's definitely tipping its hat to other things as well, and I think that's why I like it so much. It's almost familiar.
Yeah. And again, everyone, for those watching, I think we got the next episode, which is going to be texture decal lighting work, and then the final episode of this will be an episode where I create a piece of key art with this. That key art will turn into a poster, and that poster I'll do a giveaway for. Okay, just a reminder on that. So the last thing I want to show on here before we move on to where it has gotten over the last few days, and we'll turn my left panel back on, is we cannot forget about engines, right? We also can't forget about things like armament and stuff like that. I am going to get to that all that with you here because I need to take some notes. Some of those decisions have not been made, and I need chat's help to help me figure out what is a good armament for this capital ship. But one of the things we cannot forget are main engines. You can see here on these silhouettes, I just slap some engines on the side. Generally, that's how Argo does it. There are some engines integrated in the nacelles, or these aren't. Well, on like the rafts and the SRV's arms, it does look like there are engines as well. But we do need to not forget about the main engines. And on a big capital monster like this, you're going to need some big damn engines. So start playing with that as well. I'll show you where those ended up. They're right here. So when I put those on, you can see it does change the silhouette a little bit. Essentially what it is are doubled up mole engines for now, okay? So there's quads on both sides. They are elongated and made just generally bigger. And then the other idea would be that there would be the integrated maybe thrusters back here in the rear on the arms. However, I think that could be problematic for fabrication stuff. If you got thrusters blasting back where ships are departing, I don't know. But wanted to point that out with the main engines. So yeah, go ahead.
What you know how the raft legs fold down?
Yeah.
What if the two at the back are like raft legs that fold down for the landing gear?
That would be kind of interesting. Yep.
So they're straight, and then they go. Then they and you could almost still have the shells there. Just the engines fold down.
Exactly. Yeah, that could be something. Definitely, landing gear is something I've been thinking a little bit about. These two rectangles here on the bottom, you can see. I figured there'd be probably two large, almost ski-like landing gears that come down, so sort of these long skis that would, because you're going to need this ship's a long ship, so you're going to need something big, and then probably some sort of front stabilizer and probably some on the back arms here. However, you could remove it from these two rectangles, and maybe it is the engines that rotate down.
It's very it's very front heavy at the moment.
It's very front heavy. Yep.
80% of the weight is in the front, and yet those back two engines are centered. So your landing gear is going to need to be a lot further forward than I think you're expecting. Or you're going to need to have a really wide stance. So like two giant legs at the front, and those two, if the engine's rotated, like I was saying, you'd need to have them at the back and then two right at the front. So you've essentially got four legs that it lands on.
Yeah.
But
definitely, I think we need something up front.
Legs.
And if any of you, and also if any of you have flown the C2 anytime recently, although I think CIG may have fixed this, it's really tricky landing these ships that have the noses that stick out way above the landing gear. Go ahead.
So what if we had a giant landing leg at the front, but the elevator was integrated inside that leg?
That'd be kind of interesting. Integrated elevators inside the gears.
Yeah, so essentially you have this. So you have the two legs on the back that are the engine that fold down, and then so to compensate for that, the front leg would have to be fairly large. But see how you've kind of got that central square there at the bottom, in the middle, directly under the disc. If you had it so that there's this kind of, I don't know what style leg it is, but like a leg that comes down, and then the center of it is a hollow square, you could essentially have the elevator come down inside this industrial style lift.
You know what, it could also be a little bit of an homage to the ramp on the Banu Merchantman a little bit, where the gear maybe comes down and sticks forward, but there are some like steps that lead up, and then maybe that leads up to an elevator or something.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Well, ramp works for industry as well. Like if you want to have vehicles come in and out as well.
Exactly. So because as you see, we got plenty of room here. Now here's where I kind of got to last week after our show. I spent a few hours just kind of kit bashing something together. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm digging this. It looks very Argo. It does feel capital. Like this, when this enters the area, it feels special. I think that's important for a capital ship. And here's another thing about capital ships I think that are interesting in Star Citizen. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, although there is a couple exceptions actually. But capital ships in Star Citizen generally, from my personal creative opinion, always feel a bit special in terms of their look and shape. And it's almost like they have nods to some of the other smaller ships in that manufacturer's lines, but they really are okay with being bold on their capital shapes. And a couple of good examples of that are ships like, obviously, the Kraken, the Idris, the Javelin. Those ships have looks to them that when you see them, you have to admit there's something special about the shape. It sticks out. It doesn't feel super boring. If you go back and look at some of the original concepts for the Kraken, I think Gavin Rothery showed those off on one of his Inside Star Citizen guest appearances. They had a lot of cool concepts for the Kraken, but some of them, especially early on, they were like leaning off some of the Drake stylings already, right? They were trying to do the two kind of pronged approach that the Vulture had. There was almost like the super caterpillar version. There was just different things that they were riffing on. And I think it was Gavin or Paul Jones or something said how Chris Roberts sort of didn't approve any of that, and eventually was just like, build an aircraft carrier, right? The hell with it not exactly matching the Drake styling, just build an aircraft carrier. And that was a smart decision because it grabs people, right? People immediately gravitate towards it. It's one of those popular ships. I think there's some ships that deviate from that a little bit, especially in the Hull series, but where the Hull series, while it does sort of, the Hull E is still very much like a Hull B, its scale is off the charts, right? So that's going to grab people. The Pioneer is just this massive slab of ship that's going to blot out the sun. Okay, there's something special about that. Again, I think the Orion, again, another one that is very different from the RSI standard ships, right? It's got the big rotating things and it's super all that. So I think there's something to be said about a capital ship. When you see it for the first time, you need to be like, whoa, look at that. You know what I mean? And not even just capitals, large ships as well. I felt that the first time I was flying around, and I think like a Mustang, when I first started playing the game, I flew up on a Starfarer that was landed at an outpost. It's the first time I had seen a Starfarer in game. And it did grab me. I had never seen anything like it, right? I was like, whoa, that is a odd looking ship from a distance. And as I flew up to him, like, oh my God, this thing's huge, right? So I think there's something about these big ships making a statement, a design statement when you see them. So this looked cool, but obviously there's a lot of like boring areas here. There's a lot of stuff about Argo that we need to get in here. Argo has a lot of railings and parts and pieces that we need to get in there. So I'm going to bring up where it's at now. Go ahead. Execute while I'm bringing this up.
So my brain just ran there while you were talking about. So I was thinking about the landing gear. I was thinking about how this thing would be when it was landed. I was thinking about, could it also construct vehicles? And my brain was like, if you could lower like once it was landed, if there was a way to lower the back arms down, it could construct vehicles as well. And so you could see where my brain's gone. And I'm just starting to think about all these crazy ways those arms could be kind of lowered or bent, and like how that would visually look when it sits almost like a spider on the surface with these bent legs. Well, I just created a lot of work for you if you want to do that. But
no, I mean, again, this is all. I love all these ideas. Everyone who chimed in on the silhouettes, by the way, the A, B, C, Ds, and all those. Again, I thought that was really interesting. Thank you very much. And just so everyone knows, I'm actually recording the chat because I like to go back after these episodes where we're kit bashing and read through some of the chats that I miss and integrate some of those ideas for the next episode. North Speak says, now Grim has me drawing. I love my Wacom. That's all. I'm glad I'm inspiring you to be creative. That's always good. So here we go. Here's where we at. I then worked on this for a number of days after this and was like, okay, we're going to start to build this out, start to get some fine detail in there. So let's switch over to where it's at now. You should notice the shift because this is decent. We're starting to get a good vibe here, but now we got to start bringing in elements. Okay. And we're not done yet, but I brought in a lot of elements. So here we go. Let me switch this over.
The other thing I just realized too, that those engines, you're going to need to be able to rotate them both directions so you can essentially change your thrust vector, right? Because there's going to be times where one part of the ship is the front, the other is the back, and it swaps.
VMXCO says, when are we pushing this render to Blender? VM, I can send you this model anytime, my friend. I'll let you go to town on it, get some textures. But here we go, everyone. This is the kind of the ship as it's getting fleshed out. This includes all kinds of little details, more support structures up top, getting lights, getting retro thrusters integrated, things like that, getting maneuvering thrusters starting to be integrated here up in the top part of the saucer, getting those classic Argo rails put all throughout. Again, starting to break up some of those lines, added a secondary internal a secondary, disc element here that I cut out the middle and changed the color of. Again, you got to break up those lines so it doesn't just feel like a sea of orange. Started to fill out our back end here, borrowing pieces from other ships like the Kraken and others. Go ahead.
Like a tiger stripe almost on there. It's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? As you start to break the... Yeah,
like a target as well.
As the lines start to break up.
Shoot here, please.
I move my lighting here around real quick, everyone. Gonna get a sense of the different shapes here as we move that lighting around. But the ship, let's talk about its scale real quick. Okay. Actually, I'll do a kind of a cheap beauty render here. Where the ship ended up was 251 meters long with a 108 meter long beam, which is its width. That is important to know because that means it would definitely fit in an extra large hangar. Okay. because the Kraken can fit in an extra large hangar, and the Kraken has a length of 270 meters with a beam of 104 meters. So this ship would definitely fit in the capital extra large hangar. So there's kind of a beauty render of where we're at, everybody.
Sorry, it's also proof that the Endeavor's got to grow as well, isn't it? Because the Endeavor's like what 220 or something like that at the moment, and there's no way you're gonna fit all those features.
Well, currently the Endeavor's scoped to be 200 meters long. It's definitely going to grow. It depends a little bit on the reconcepting of the Endeavor, though, and where they go with that. I do think it's going to turn into a big ship, but it's going to be interesting to see what design changes they do to maybe bring its scale down a little bit. But the Endeavor doesn't have to land planetside, so that frees it up a little bit.
Right. One thing I do want to talk about real quickly is something that I don't think we really thought of.
Thank you, Reanimator. Appreciate that.
What if this? So I want to talk about two things: a little bit of its utility and a little bit of its weapons. So,
armament is definitely something to talk about here. One thing everyone will notice is there are no guns on this currently, and that is not how CIG operates. There's got to be some turrets on here. And we also need to figure out where the drones deploy from. I have a few ideas. We're going to talk about that. But let's talk about armament first. And I got my pen and paper so I can write stuff down.
So I'm thinking kind of like where the arms hit the body at the top there. You almost looks like you've got little lights there or something. I can't quite work out where it is.
But, right now, it's just sort of greeble elements.
Yeah. So maybe two turrets on the top and then something on the bottom. So it defends the ship that it's repairing, but it also defends itself. And then the other gun you would need would probably be under the chin at the front of the ship, which is a more for when you're actually flying it normally. I don't know, like 2 size 7s or something. I'm thinking Nautilus a little bit is kind of where my brain's going.
So I like the Nautilus.
Yeah, so two size 7s under the chin for itself, and then kind of 2 turrets on the top. The 2 turrets on the top also defend the ship you're constructing. They also defend if you're being chased. So 2 turrets at the back on the top, and then like 2 size 7s under the chin. Is kind of where my brain's going. I don't know what your thoughts are though.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Obviously, I think the weapons back here on these main, these sort of back nacelles here, maybe something propped up around here, I think make a good platform for that. They could be remote turrets with control stations inside.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I think those vertical box, you've got vertical box things there, and then behind that there's like there's a box. Yeah, that you had it just there. Again, we're out of sync because I was watching it delayed.
It's sitting still for a minute. So.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like a little hump on the just before it gets to the black part of the circle on the outer side.
Yeah.
If you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. That.
I
don't know if you get it.
I think I know.
Well, that's where I'm talking. I haven't seen if you're putting your mouse or anything there, but there's a little hump just before you get to the black part of the circle, and that's no. The orange hump on the left and right hand side arms.
Oh, okay. Yes. Right here.
Yeah.
These things.
I'll wait till the mouse moves there, but I'm pretty sure you've figured it out. But that's where I was thinking roughly where the turrets could go. Yeah, about there. Yeah, that's it. You got it. About there was where I was thinking.
I'm actually bringing up real quick the Nautilus. Go ahead.
And what would Argo turrets be? Like we know that you know the cab off the MPUV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that, you know what I mean? Like so it's like mini MPUV cabs.
Right. Yeah. That could be cool. That could be cool. I wonder if does the Nautilus's main gun does it include the barrels? No, it doesn't. Okay, where are the barrels? Stand by, everybody. Stand by. Oh, yes, it does. There's the main guns. Okay, let me throw this in here. Let me grab this. I'm just going to do some real quick kit bashing. First off, everyone in chat, how do you like where we're ending up here with our Argo capitals? Everyone digging it so far? We're going to, for the sake of messing around with some armament, we are going to bring in some things here. Why is there a light in this? Let me kill that. That was back when I was putting lights in everything. Don't do that anymore. Okay, I've got to stand by, everyone. Bear with me. Okay. So
orientation.
Destroy says,
And
is it a cap repair? So I think we're thinking capital, a capital fabrication ship that can fabricate up to large ships. Now I think repair would just be part of that. So
ship construction could be another way to call it. Whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
I think that's the other thing. Like in the real world, they use different names for different things.
Right.
So
Right.
whatever you want to call it, because that's what we haven't quite. There's manufacturing and fabrication under CIG, right?
Right.
Which one's which?
Right.
And we don't quite know. So essentially, one is for the building of interiors, and one is for the building of the building itself.
Right.
So the example I give is like the Pioneer can build both, but it builds the building, but then you've got to put all the furniture inside.
Right.
So I'd almost say fabrication, but see what I mean? Like they both mean the same thing. So I can't tell you which is which, but they use both words, and they haven't really spelt it out, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So
yeah. So you see here, I just slapped a gun on here. Don't know how that scales out. Actually, we'd have to do those measurements. But let me. And for those curious, I am going to throw on real quick here. I'm going to bring in a Kraken, so everyone can sort of see what that size comparison looks like. It's always good sometimes to throw these up next to a ship that we sort of know how big it is, even though we haven't seen the Kraken in game. Everyone kind of understands how big the Kraken is. It's a monster ship. So we're going to bring that up here. Bear with me. So let's grab our Kraken. For some reason, my turrets are not in there. So let's drag the turrets down, and let's grab the Kraken, and let's bring it over. Now, the Kraken's going to come in really small, and everything might go black because of the way I have lights set up. So just bear with me, everybody. Okay, there it is, and everything went black. Hold on 1 minute. The Kraken needs to go to 4.94 scale, 4.94, 4.94, 4.94, and let's rotate her.
God, glad I'm not the only one that talks to themselves when they work.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, crazy otherwise, but yeah.
All right, everybody, there you go. You can kind of see the scale difference between the two ships. Obviously, the Argo Capital Repair, the Argo Capital Fabrication. Let's change that. We got to change that because we're changing our concept here. Okay, Argo Capital Fabrication Ship and our Kraken. We'll hit the render button on that. Give it a second to calculate, everybody. But it gives you a good idea of the scale of the Drake Kraken at 270 meters versus what this would be at 253 meters. Got to remember, 253 meters is big. That's bigger than an Idris. Now, a lot of that space is made up from the capital repair or fabrication arms, right? That's pretty clear. Which I would imagine those would be transversable in some way. Maybe there's like a walkable corridor through them, but not a lot to do on that side of the ship. A lot of our ship is kind of harnessed in the main hull, the upper saucer hull area. However, when you look at how wide that is up there at that main living area, it's still a decent amount of room inside this ship. I think absolutely it would be on par with the amount of usable interior space of, a Kraken or a Pioneer or something like that. So.
I keep sitting here looking at this ship going, it's so familiar. There's something, and I can't. There's an alien race in Star Trek that has a similar shape language, and I just can't.
Well, and can I tell you?
You circle. Go ahead.
When I was building this, I started getting to it, and I was like, man, I really like the look of this. And then you start getting in that idea where you're like, I'd buy this. I would definitely buy this. But yeah. I started getting to that point where I was like, isn't there a ship in the game already? I kept thinking there's a concept that exists that's like this, maybe even on a smaller scale. But when I went through all the ships, I was like, no, it's not. They haven't done anything quite like this from a shape language standpoint.
So I've got this kind of goldy yellow ship in my head from Star Trek that has a similar thing where they have like a round shape at the front and then these two sweeping arms at the back. Hell, it might even be from Stargate or something like that. It's just. It's such a familiar shape, and I just can't pin down where I saw it.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's so appealing, because it does feel familiar.
Right. Yeah. It's got, and that's the thing. It feels, again, it does feel like something that could exist within Star Citizen. I mean, it's got a lot of the cues that are familiar to not only Argo but Star Citizen as a game in terms of the physical, the physicalness of it,
Yeah.
the realistic bent certain manufacturers have. It definitely is leaning on that, and it feels like something that could exist within universe. Again, a lot of the ideas that we're seeing here are not new to CIG and their ship designers, obviously. I'm not sure if any of them are watching. Hope you are, but if any of you are watching, obviously you had the idea for a UFO concept for Argo, which I think was pretty bold, even though it didn't make the cut. I think that was a pretty bold thing to do. And again, I'm a big believer in manufacturers can step outside of their styling sometimes. I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with that, but remember, Boeing is a manufacturer. They make everything from fighter jets to airliners to all kinds of stuff that doesn't look the same. I think certain ships can have certain design characteristics that make have touch points from one design to another, but there can be radically different stylings. And what I like about where the Argo Capital is heading towards is there's enough Argo DNA there that it feels like an Argo ship. At the same time, it feels like something new and different and kind of exciting. You know what I mean?
And it's different from different angles. Like if you look at it from the front and the sides, like where you'd normally see it is traditionally Argo, but then all of a sudden you look from the top and it's like completely different.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. It's like I want to look at it from different angles.
Yeah, VMXEO said that this reminds him of the Bentus home ship, which is this here, which I agree. It does look like that. It definitely looks like that. It's got that vibe. I guess that's from Homeworld.
The closest one I can. Oh yeah, it does. It's a little bit like that. The ones it's reminding. The closest I can find is the one from the Dominion Wars, but I think it's I can't remember the guy. The Cardassian. I think it's a Cardassian ship, but it's not exactly the same shape.
Yeah.
Is the closest I can find. They're like a half circle, but then they've got two arms that go back. So that's yeah.
Okay, so armament. Chat, what do you think? Do we think? Let's talk about this. Is another thing I want to talk about, especially with capital ships. And in chat, I'd love to see some numbers here. What are we thinking for how many PDC turrets this thing would have? Because again, those things all have to be considered because they do take up exterior real estate on the ship. They're going to add to its overall silhouette and the amount of greeble work I have to do as we move forward. I'll let people chime in here.
On Discord. You don't have to bring it up, but I just want that's one of the Cardassian ships from the game.
Oh, cool. Yeah. It's got that vibe.
But again, only from the top. And then as soon as you go to the side,
right, and then it changes. That silhouette definitely changes. Yeah,
that's why it's so clever. It's one thing from one angle and then something completely different from another. And it's even got hammerhead vibes. Like the cab almost hangs down underneath.
Yeah,
though it doesn't. It artificially makes it think like it's hanging underneath because of the UFO part. Yeah.
Let me render this back up real quick. So let's go over some of our stuff. We've kind of diverted, and I'm seeing some of those PDC numbers coming in. I'm writing some of that down, everyone. If any of you have seen the latest, is it the I Held the Line video? No, it's the Richard Tyrer playthrough from Citizen Con of Squadron 42. Go back and watch it if you haven't in a while, and pay special attention to the Idris and Javelin. I've spoken at length about how those ships have received pretty substantial exterior overhauls. I would go so far as to say not only has the entire exterior been changed, but even some geometry and how it is form factored has changed. Things like the observation window that our camera pulls up to is now a completely different shape, not just added parts to it. It's a different shape completely now. Engines have changed. All the exterior panel work is different. All the ship, and in the case of the Idris, there's actually been contour changes to its rear end that were very clearly visible. But one of the things you will notice if you kind of go through that step by step is those ships are covered in PDC turrets now, especially the Javelin. I don't know how many the Javelin has, but it looks like it has 20 to 30 of these PDC turrets on it.
And definitely put the deadly factor up. Have you been in like a Polaris or something and someone rocks up in a ISIS or something and they just pop and you didn't even know they were there?
Yeah.
Like it's cool.
Yeah. So I think those are things that definitely have to be considered in any sort of ship like this. So we've got a good idea of armament. I'm seeing some good PDC numbers written down. I've written that down. I like the touch on the Nautilus that you said execute, because the Nautilus has some really interesting turret placements and stuff. I may look at those. I could even see, for example, little turrets that we're going to take the Kraken out here. It made its appearance. Thank you, Drake, for supplying that for today's show. But I could even see out of here, if you look at these panels here, and I just realized I wasn't, bear with me. I just realized that I wasn't sharing my screen, and I probably could to make things a little faster. Oops, stand by. Bear with me, everybody. Bear with me. Okay. I'll just go live there. But those of you can see these big panels here, which were kind of an early part of the design language that I built out. You can lift it up here so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's just this piece here, but there's not a lot going on with it. It's just kind of a simplified piece to kind of round out this edge. That could be a place where a turret can emerge from. Maybe there's a door there that can open and you can have some turrets come out there again. Don't know. But we still have a lot of real estate on this for armament that we can figure out. I think the Nautilus shakes hands with that kind of well. Maybe some sort of dual size 7 up here, etc. Next thing I wanted to talk about, though, is the drone support. I do think this thing should support extra large drones. Based off my measurements of where the new Pioneer is, and the new Pioneer, by the way, is really close to this scale. The new Pioneer is 247 meters long. This is currently 251, so the new Pioneer and this would be very similar in scale. Drone-wise, I think the drones could fit in these nacelles, actually. Maybe they emerge from the top, or perhaps we got enough room down here. Let me turn off our light. Stand by. There's enough room down here that we could put some doors where the drones could come out the bottom. Again, there's nothing to say that if this is a big fabrication ship and it fabricates ships, there's nothing to say that those drones couldn't fabricate buildings as well. However, again, I think there'd be some limitations on this over the Pioneer, and that maybe this only carries 2. But what is everyone's thought on that? Extra large drone support.
I think you're actually getting into an internal question. Like, you've almost got to learn out the layout. So I know we're not ever going to build the internals, right?
No,
So
but
this
we
is
may
just
do some
picking
cross section, like very simple white boxing in a later episode. Yeah.
Well, if I was just picking like cool factor, when you were showing off that curve piece that connected onto the round part of the ship, I was noticing that there was a black kind of triangle, like when you're looking at it side on, it was diagonally below to the left. What if that was some kind of door that opens and it's like some kind of triangle door that opens and they come out of there? I'll have to wait for it to catch up. But
I'm sharing my screen in Discord too now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it usually lags, so I don't.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's right. No, as in like it lags your PC.
But that door.
Yeah, that little black panel there. Yeah, I was just because it looked to me like some kind of industrial door, and I was like, I'm wondering if you could have like, you could have, 2 drones each side, essentially come out.
Yeah. That could be cool.
A little bit like the Vulcan, if you know what I mean. So like they're drone loaders.
Yeah.
And maybe the differential thing for this ship is it actually has different size drones. So maybe like, see how it's a triangle. So maybe it's got like 1 extra large on the right and then like a large on the left or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why the door's triangle shaped, because it can fit 2 different ones. And then on the other side, you've got 2 more. So instead of just having 4 extra large like the Pioneer, it's differentiated a little bit.
Yeah. Brewski says, what is the purpose of this ship? Brewski, this is a fan concept. I am not CIG in any way. This is a fan concept of an Argo capital fabrication ship.
It's an Argo cooking machine.
It's Argo cooking machine.
It's a giant waffle maker. No.
But no,
you should have stuff with him.
Originally started off as a capital repair ship, and when I say capital repair, meaning it's a capital size, but it repairs like large ships. Think Constellation, as you see it here. But now I think we're leaning more towards a capital fabrication ship, so it can fabricate large ships and repair them by its very nature as well. Ship can pull in here and be repaired, obviously, but the idea would be that Um, much
Mm.
like the space station concept CIG has with its dry dock, it would slowly build out a ship there. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it's the hologram thing that slowly gets filled up a lot with base building. We'll see how that comes together maybe in a year or two and they get back to it. But that's kind of the idea here is that it could fabricate ships. Again, remember, this is still set apart because the Pioneer can fabricate ships, but only up to small ships, nomad size. That's what
Mm.
its fabrication
Um,
hangar inside the Pioneer is capable of doing is up to, he said, John Crew said up to nomad size. So nomad is a small ship.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, it's got a medium hangar. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So you're
Because
not,
I would assume Freelancer Zeus
and
because
I
they
think,
showed a spirit. They showed a spirit in one. Oh no, maybe I'm mixing up my
yeah, I
numbers.
just watched it the other day. They only ever show a
Yeah.
nomad landing on the pad and a nomad coming being made into fabrication hangar, and
Mm.
I don't think, and I don't necessarily think it's the smaller medium ships that are problematic. I don't think you're going to be able to build anything like the upper medium ships, but I don't think you're going to be able to even build like a Cuddy Black in it. I think it's going to be for like nomad and smaller.
Yeah. Well, that's technically a medium is Cuddy Black, so that's what I was
Yeah.
assuming. But I guess we'll have to wait and see because again, that also means they want you to build the base and then build them in the bases,
Right.
not build them from the
Right.
ships.
The
They don't want construction ships, as in they don't want ships that can build other ships.
Right. So right now, in terms of building large ships, the only two options would be the space station dry dock, which is very much an in-game thing. Remember, that was shown at the very end of the space station panel, meaning that's kind of like, all right, you've built your space station. That's kind of what you're working towards for the top tier
Yeah.
thing again, because that can build like Bengals apparently, and then fabrication hangars planet side that you are going to be able to build. They're going to be part of a base. But those fabrication hangars, from the information we got, and I can't remember where I read this, but I think we saw that, or some CIG employee mentioned that those fabrication hangars will be able to build up to capital level ships. You're going to be able to build an Idris in them, or a Pioneer, maybe even. This ship here, we're focusing on that size 4 Connie size ship. So around up to like 60, 65 meters in length, sort of thing. So again, you have to put limits into this. You can't always just make it, oh, well, it could do all the way up to, this ship could build a Pioneer. That's just not how it works there.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking though, from that design choice, it sounds like it gives a more reason for you to build a base is where they're going. Like
Right.
they want you to essentially defend where you're building your ships.
Right.
So I now wonder if we've just ruled out the ship's existence.
Well, maybe, but it also just means too that it could also just be an issue of the Pioneer was not a ship fabrication ship. It was always supposed to be a base building ship. So they were like, look, we're going to put this in there. You can build up to small level ships, but we still need room for the 4 extra large drones, the fabricators, the integrated resource stuff. We need all the cargo space for building. I feel like the Pioneer's purpose was primarily a base building ship. The ship fabrication thing did feel a little bit more like a, hey, here's a cool extra that it can do. You know what I mean?
It's basically a giant factory now that allows you to roll out a city. Essentially, it's like a in those games where they have the arc ship that kind of like rolls out and it builds the civilization. That's the Pioneer.
Yeah, exactly. And so this I do see as being different in terms of its focus. Someone just said, Vasily says, why would this ship be nearly as big as a Pioneer have less than 4 drones? You might have move to fewer drones if fabrication area had horizontal gantry. Well, so here, and it's not about could it support 4 drones. It's more about putting limitations in it, because I do feel like a lot of times with fan creations, they just give it the best of everything. Okay, it's got the 4 drones. It could do this. It can pump every little thing. It's always can do the best. So I am trying to build some limitations into this because CIG tends to do that. So, for example, with the Kraken, I have long said that those 2 internal hangars on the starboard side that can hold extra small ships like the Buccaneer and stuff, why can't they just duplicate that on the other side since there's nothing there and you could have 4 extra small hangars? But when I posited that question and even showed an animation, Gavin Rothery replied to that post. I think it was Gavin. Gavin replied to that post and said, "Not so much." And I think it's because he probably knows something I don't in terms of the internals of the ship, right? And where maybe certain corridors and stuff would be, or more than likely, it's just a limitation. They were just like, no, it's going to have 2 internal hangars, not 4. You know what I mean? They just had to find a stopping point. It's sort of like when I see a lot of people, and I'm going to go back to the Kraken again, because there's still so much conversating about that and theory crafting about this ship. I constantly see people say the Kraken is definitely going to grow, and it's going to be able to support even bigger ships on its deck. I personally don't think it's going to grow at all. I think it's at its size. I don't think it was built around every medium ship. I think it was literally built around the ability to carry 2 Cutlass Blacks on the main deck, which it can do easily.
It's designed to. It is listed as a light carrier. It's designed to support smaller ships.
Yeah.
Cosmic Moose has pointed out a really important thing in chat that is going to change a little bit about this ship. Can you open a hangar link for me and chuck in a C1 Spirit and an Andromeda? And can you put them in both in the above view?
Yeah, let me switch over. Stand by. Okay, so we're doing a C1 Spirit, you said?
Yep, and a Constellation Andromeda. Because I think he's hit on a really important point here, and we have a bit of a design flaw issue we need to look at.
All right, well, let's look at it. Okay, here we go. And that is width, right? We're looking at width as being the issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how do you address this? So either the ship has to be able to rotate sideways so it can fit the Spirit in sideways to construct it.
Yeah.
Or we need a way to articulate the arms in such a way that it can go accommodate wider ships.
So what we need, and let me switch over, and this is a great point, so thank you, Cosmic, for bringing that up. Again, this is why we're doing this, is to sort of feel out this stuff. So what we need to be able to do is we need to look for points, and I would say around this area here. You see where I don't have any cladding? This area, we need some sort of joint system that can rotate our arms out wider at this point. Not rotate them, but essentially expand them. It won't be a joint in terms of it swings the arms out wider like a V. It'll be a joint rail system that is able to move these arms out to a certain point, and what that will require is me to do measurements of what maybe the widest large ship is.
Can I actually suggest?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I actually suggest that the right back to where the curves hit the actual side of the UFOs or the saucer section, that's where it expands out from, because you may need to adjust to bring it like if you're constructing in flight.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to be able to construct in flight, but that would allow you to construct on the go. It'd also allow the engines to be pushed out with the arms as well. And we know the Crucible that can reconfigure itself to distribute its center of mass differently. That would be an absolute boon for this to do the same.
Yeah, and obviously...
And it also explains why they are curved like that, because they can actually push right up against the body, but they also split out. So it essentially makes this like a clamp. The entire ship would be like a giant clamp. That's kind of cool if you think about it.
Yeah. So essentially we need some sort of mechanism that allows, and again, I'm just going to do it pretty rough here. We need a mechanism that is going to widen out our nacelles to support larger ship manufacturing. Now, see, when I widen it out there, my God, it looks very Star Trek-y there, but I really like it. And again, that's not even a bad line breakup as well. You get a little bit more of the UFO vibe. It's less sweeping now, but again, some of that can be changed and stuff, and then support much bigger ships.
I do question the need for the cage underneath now, though.
Well,
because that's going to create more problems that it's going to solve.
So the funny thing is that the cage is... Did I put that in its own thing? No, it is in the back bridge area. So yeah, the cage can definitely be lost. It doesn't have to be there. There's really, again, it's just a design thing at this point, but doesn't necessarily have to be there.
And also, believe it or not, I would have put it, if you were going to keep the cage, I actually would have put it above, not below, because then if you land, you see where I'm going with this? Then you can do vehicles, and you could have actually had little arms or you know what I was talking about with the swivel thing?
Yep.
Like instead of having arms that come out, you could actually have lasers that just go across the top of the ship and essentially construct it,
Right.
almost like a 3D printer, but it goes across the arms.
Right.
But then again, the problem with that is as soon as you expand it out, you've got to have those be able to
Right.
expand. So essentially,
and without the cage,
problems.
again, if these did move out to some degree, they actuated out in some way, which wouldn't be hard to come up with a mechanism for that. Again, it then opens up the rear end to be able to support much larger, wider ships, such as the Spirit. Well, it doesn't have to be crazy wide; it just needs to be a little bit wider. But I think I think that would be easy to do to reconform that.
So let's crowdsource this. I need the widest large ship that you can find, guys, in an S4 size. We've got the Spirit. We're now, so if you can import the Spirit, work on that one. And everyone else in chat, I'm trying to find the widest large ship we can think of. So I'm at the moment, like, you remember, we're not going above S4. So
yeah.
Starfarer is too big.
What's our largest? Is a 600i? That's not size 4 anymore, right? Because that's a large ship.
Size 5.
Yeah, it's a size
so
5.
Starfarer is size 5. So is the 600i. Corsair would be S4. MSR might be the one to look at, actually. Hang on, MSR. Let me bring that in on my end. Mercury.
Give me 1 second. Be right back. Keep talking.
Yep. I'm just double checking to see the width. Yeah, the MSR is slightly wider than the Spirit. So if you want to bring that in, that would be where I'd be looking at when you get back. Yeah, so if you guys can have a look in chat. It's for, yeah, well, I guess you could just do it to metrics. That actually makes a lot of sense. So we're looking 5688. So in chat, it's gone off the screen already, but someone posted the metrics for the S4 pad size.
Okay. So
and you could just make a box.
Yep, that's what we're going to do. So what's our measurements?
Yeah.
What's our beam on the box? 56 meters by 88 on the length and 18 on the height. So 18.
Yeah, that's it.
So this is that size right here.
Yeah, credit to Northspeak. Good.
Thank you, Norse. Appreciate it. There you go. That would be the size right there. It fits.
Perfect.
So
yeah,
I'm actually going to yeah, we'll save that then. Okay, cool. So that is essentially where we have to go for our ship to be able to support the vast majority of ships. Now here's the thing. Maybe there's a way beyond that you can look at drone support to further expand that, if you absolutely wanted to.
I just realized another place where the drones could come out. So just behind the UFO there's that little grill section in black.
Yeah.
What if they came out there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an option. Actually, real quick, everyone, before I lose my place, let me remake that box again. What was those box sizes again? That was 56 on the beam, 18 on the height.
And 88. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to save that because I'll go back and do this later. Okay, that is what it needs to support. Okay. Yeah, you're talking about this area back here.
Yeah, because because essentially, if you make that the back section of that area, you'd almost have your control room there. I'm thinking like the Reclaimer a little bit, right?
Yeah.
With how they're like up the top at the back. That's the kind of where I'm thinking. So you could have like the drones literally come out of a drone room just there, and then they fly. Because obviously, if it's on the ground, it might be more beneficial to have it on the top.
Yeah. Crixus, I notated your notes about the engines. One thing we may be able to look at too is the mole, in terms of how the mole's engines are at diagonals, and that may actually even work kind of interesting in an interesting way. Yeah, no, those are good points. I like that. That's could definitely be a possible drone deployment area. That'd be really cool. And then obviously we'll look at ways to integrate the UFO a little bit more to where it's like inset in this dome. That could be really cool. Hell, this could be a little hangar in here where it just totally lands. Right now, I did it in a way that I don't think CIG would ever do it, which is it's sitting on top and there's like I just put a placeholder kind of airlock there that would have a ladder connection, but again, CIG doesn't really do that. So I need to do something that would fit more the way in which they do things, which is more like a hangar.
You know how you've kind of got like two cabs on it, like one at the front, one at the back. I think the back one will probably have to change to a door, almost like a ramp
or something. I could see a ramp being back there.
Yeah. But they don't currently have a circular hangar either. But like I said, technically that's like a medium ship, but that's the advantage of the Argo. Like I like the fact that it's the only medium ship that can land there, but everyone else can only land a small. Well, if you didn't bring your Argo, you can only bring a small.
And let's bring our measuring stick in here. So here is our little measuring stick. Let's expand it out. We don't need to be perfect here. We're just getting back of the napkin math here on its length. It's a little longer. Let me bring it out a little bit more. There we go. That's kind of good back of the napkin length on it. So currently that is shown as 21.754 meters, and it is a circle, so the width would be the same. So I'm pretty sure that would comfortably fit on a small pad.
Can you do me a small favor and bring in the Intrepid?
Intrepid, yes.
Is that possible? I've got a feeling that I could be wrong. But...
maybe Intrepid. I don't know if I have the model for that. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah.
Because I think that's roughly in that ballpark. I could be wrong. I think it might have changed actually. Let me bring it up on Hangerlink.
Yeah.
Before I trouble you to do it on that. Intrepid.
Intrepid's 23 meters long, so pretty much exactly that. I will.
That's what I was thinking. It might be appropriate. So even some starter ships would fit.
Yeah. So here's the thing: the circle up here could be bigger. Hell, I could make it to where this entire circle is able to actuate open, but then it could still be mostly the square type standard landing pad. Can
I suggest the coolest landing hangar doors of all time? An Iris.
Oh, that'd be cool. That would be cool.
Like the Stargate. You know the Stargate Iris? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That could look sick if it was done right.
Okay, so we got some stuff here. We're going to work on as I take this concept and move forward with it further. We're going to look at ways to integrate the UFO a little better. We're going to expand out the nacelles. Big shout out to, was it Moose on that or Norse?
So Cosmic Moose pointed out the we needed to be bigger ships.
Yeah.
And then Norse Speak gave us the pad size metrics.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do, and then armament and drone support. So those are kind of the four things I'm going to be dealing with over the next few days before we do our next stream on this one. I will say that I really love the silhouette and the way this sweeps off the curves. So at first, I think I am going to look at ways to make this actuate, or maybe these nacelle arms almost like slide around and rotate up around the radius of the UFO a little bit in order to widen. Although I got to be careful of that because they could get shorter by doing a motion like that. Anyways, I'll look at that. I'm going to look at ways for them to actuate in order to keep the ship's current silhouette in place, but maybe it can expand for other ships. If that doesn't work, if that just becomes problematic, then we will we'll expand them out, and the silhouette of the ship will change a little bit, obviously.
But I like the fact that they leave them folded in. And then when you're working on a bigger ship, you turn them on and it turns into a Star Trek ship. Literally, I think that's a great way to hide that it's a Star Trek ship.
Yeah.
It's like, look, there's this ship. And now you buy it. It's like, oh my God, it's a Star Trek ship. Like, I really like that. I
agree. I think that would be pretty sweet. Any other thoughts that anyone has regarding the Argo capital fabrication and repair ship? We got some homework to do. Armament, drone support, deal with the UFO's landing capabilities, and its support for larger or wider fabrication beam lengths.
If you are going to play with the arms coming out and down, out too, I want you to also think about like what it's going to be like when it's on the ground, because I think those arms would need to be able to lower. That would be the only other thing I would add into that. And I know that adds a whole nother complication because of where the engines are.
So sorry, you said lower?
Well, again, like think if this thing landed on the ground. If you want to construct stuff on the ground, those arms essentially need to come down, or the little arms that come off need to be able to reach to the ground. So is it constructing with arms, or is it constructing with drones and like lasers or whatever, like, beams essentially? So they're all things you need to think about. So if you keep the cage there but move the cage to the top, you could technically just construct from the cage down to the ground. So therefore they don't need to move either. But then again, you'd need to make it so the cage can somehow extend so it crosses the entire thing. You've got a few issues there to settle.
but we're coming along. We are making some real progress on this ship. It's here's a good thing. I really like the bones of it. I like where it's headed. I'm excited about it. If this was a ship CIG was selling on some sort of concept thing, I would like 100% be buying it. So I think that in and of itself is a little bit of a success because again, it's it's tickling the funny bone, so to speak, of what would make a good capital ship.
So for homework for chat, do you want them to think about the 4-letter acronym name? Because I know you said you want to look at decals for next stream.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you would like them to work on for homework, like a 4-letter name? That's along like the only one I thought I can think of that we heard from last time was bolt, as in bolt as in construction, building, whatever.
Yeah.
But another 4-letter name along those lines. Is that something you want or not?
I think so. I've written down a lot of the names that were offered up last time, which I think were great. So I do have a list of those. I think those are great. I think just keep thinking it. So here's what we're going to do. The next stream, I'll show off the changes that we went over here. Okay, I'll show those changes off. And then we really need to start at that point doing, and I'll probably do this live on stream when I do it, but we'll start creating a logo for the ship because the logo will probably need to be somewhere on it. And we'll start looking at all the decal work that needs to go on it. We're going to do this full Gavin Rothery style and decal the shit out of this thing. So we're, and then we're also going to do lights. There does need to be lights on it, so we're going to put the lights on it. So next stream will be detail work. It's going to be decal work, lights, fine tooth adjustments to some of the mesh. And then the stream after that will be us creating a hero image out of this with a starscape and a ship in the middle section being fabricated, all that good stuff.
I think I just thought of one for the UFO, Unified Fabrication Orbiter.
Unified Fabrication Orbiter. I do like that. That is a pretty good one. So here's what we'll
someone
do.
Had a really good. Someone had a fairly clever one then in chat. It was craft, capital fabrication repair something, and I missed it because it was about 4 or 5 lines up. It was CRFT or something like that. It was Argo craft. I thought that was kind of clever.
So here's
crafting.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Everyone listening, I am going to render out a good image of this ship. And then I will post that image on the Starjump Twitter. Okay, when I post that image on the Twitter, that will be there. Oh
Shimpasta. Yeah, that one. That was a good one. Capital repair, fabricator, and transport. That's really clever because crafting. I just thought it was really clever.
I think that's cool too. I really like that. That's kind of probably my current favorite. So here's what we'll do. I'll post this image of the ship on Twitter, and I'll say, "Hey, what are your names for this capital fabrication ship?" Put your names in there, and then on the next stream, we will do a poll of maybe I'll pick my top 5 favorites, and we'll do a poll live on stream to choose the name of the ship, and that again will be part of its logo.
They're my 2 favorites. Bolt and craft are the 2 cool stuff.
I'm digging those. I'm digging those a lot. So Shimpasta, make sure you put yours over there when I make that post on Twitter. As a matter of fact. Let's see here. You know what? Yeah. I'll render that right after. Okay, let me switch back here. Everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this stream. Got to get back to work, but we're going to send you over to someone. I want you to make sure you give them some Starjump love, smaller streamer, Pyrocentric TV. Make sure you say hello, give them a little bit of that Starjump love. Execute, thank you for coming on here today and talking with me about this ship. I know you're excited about this project, and we'll just keep on moving and keep on building out something cool.
I'm regularly up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. It's great.
And then, again, the cool thing is when we're done with this, we'll create a really cool piece of key art complete with the UFO flying out of the hangar, a ship being manufactured in the back, spacescape or whatever's around us. We'll create a really nice, high-quality piece of key art image. We'll turn that into a big-ass poster, and we'll do a giveaway for that, or maybe we'll give away a couple of them. Everyone, don't forget, we have our St. Jude stuff coming up for April and May. We'll have more announcements regarding that in March, obviously. We got giveaways, all kinds of cool stuff happening for that. Otherwise, I hope you have... Go ahead.
The way it's looking right now, we should turn it into a plushy hat that you can wear.
With the arms that stick
like
out.
Like an Argo plushy hat that you can wear on your head. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we'll
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again. Appreciate it. Everyone sending you over to Pyrocentric TV. Please make sure you give him a little bit of that Starjump love. Small streamers should definitely follow over there and spread that a bit. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you again. Salute. Take a look, and don't forget to look for that post on Twitter. I want to see your ship names over there. Everyone, have a great rest of your day. Take it easy.
See you soon.